Hello. I wanted to talk about some of the work that I save. A lot of stuff that I make, I do not always want to share because maybe it's not thought out enough. Maybe it's just some ideas that I put on the page just to get it out of my head so I could come back to it later. I think a lot of the pages that I work on, I try to always think of that I can come back to it later, maybe try to add more rendering skills. I guess it's always a balance of how much simplification I want to go down. But I want to say the important thing is using acid-free paper. If you ever look at the paper you buy, if it is acid-free, it usually says it on the front. And the purpose of that is because most paper that you use, just to show an example, I was just doing a lot of practice. Most paper that you use, this is like just 11 by 17 printer paper. This paper will yellow over time. Now, it will take a long time for it to do that, but the thing is, like, this isn't, like, you can save it, I think, maybe, if you want to do that, but it will deteriorate over time, and it may be more difficult to look at. That may be more... it's hard for me to say. I know there's certain things, like maybe pencil... It all depends. Like, let's just say it's more difficult. It may be more difficult to look at in the future, and it won't last. But I mean, just to say, maybe your work... I guess it's up for debate how long you want to actually save stuff or not. I guess it's up to you because the paper is not that expensive, but it can add up if you do, if you decide to do that. And I will say, in the past, I did a lot of stuff, a lot of like half-baked ideas, and most of the ideas that I have, sorry, there's some like personal identifying information on on some of the stuff I made. So I can't always show all of it, but I do keep a good deal of stuff. I kind of have like, I did a lot of stuff on these like thicker note cards and just other pieces of Bristol paper. Yeah, why continue to kind of make stuff on paper that's not archival? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know if it's archival. It didn't say it was, but I do try to keep it in a container that's like acid-free as well. That's kind of like another thing. It's like the paper being acid-free and the container being acid-free, and kind of just kind of keeping it like that. And it's like, I guess it's a judgment call on your end whether you want to do that or not. I think, I guess you could say for a long time I didn't keep anything and everything was just practice, but I think maybe it didn't really give me a good viewpoint. And sometimes if you change up what you want to draw, it kind of throws off a lot of the other stuff that you've done. Like a lot of this was just kind of me experimenting. Like sometimes I'll draw without really just having an idea in my head, and I'll kind of just do it anyway to get ideas out, but I always do revisit that later on. But sometimes I'll also, like if I have a half-baked idea, I'll draw it on regular printer paper, kind of work it out, test it a lot, then I'll commit it more to archival paper. And I guess, like I said, it's always a debate whether you really want to archive it or not. I may have said this before, but like there's like different versions of like the paper you can get, and more often than not, if you do the math, if you buy a big paper roll of like acid-free paper, you do get your money's worth, but you do pay in time in having to cut the sheets and also flatten it out over time. Or you could just use like binder clips and something like that to keep it down and draw on it that way. But it kind of does take a while for it to break in and not fold. And the funny thing is, I want to say the only time I've seen paper yellow in my life, I have seen some stuff in like, I want to say the only example, this is going to sound funny, during the pandemic, I remember I was at work and there was a box of tissues. I know that sounds very insignificant. I didn't notice it at the time, but we weren't allowed to go to work for a few years in the physical building. So it wasn't like, it was funny because I needed to get some stuff, but I wasn't allowed to go back, and I couldn't get permission because I needed like 3 layers of permission to physically go back into the building because of the pandemic, and they didn't want to give me permission to do that. So, yeah, rip my breath mints, but that was a tangent. I noticed on my desk there was a tissue box, and I looked at the tissues, and the tissues were all yellow, and I was I never have seen that happen before, because I think more often than not, tissues are like one of those things that people just use and go through, and they like, I don't think they were ever meant to last that long. You know, I guess maybe it was considered like a perishable or something like that. But I will say, I have seen stuff kept on printer paper. Like, I've seen people print certain things, like things that they would want to keep on printer paper, and I never have seen it yellow. And that was like an interesting perspective, because I'm like, you know, maybe it takes like 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe it also depends on the environment you keep it in as well. I think environment probably also matters. Like, they always say keep like books out of sunlight. You know, I mean, some people actually kind of like the smell of deteriorating books, and more often than not, that's because of the acid-free paper they put it on, and books sometimes yellow. But yeah, keeping out of sunlight, you know, I guess you could say there's a lot of care you have to do. But yeah, it was kind of interesting, because now I always keep thinking about, you know, when people ask me a lot of the personal stuff that I do. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff I kind of don't want to share, because I'm always kind of thinking, one, I'm improving. I kind of do share stuff when I want to, but I do think about using stuff in future projects, and it's like, I don't know if I want to like spoil it yet. That's kind of been my issue. Like, I'm always thinking, like, do I want to spoil what I've been doing? And some things I will, but a lot of other things I'm just a bit hesitant until I get my rendering skills, or my, I don't know if, yeah, I guess I'll call it that. I will kind of want to get my skills to a bit of a higher level, and kind of work out and find I don't know, find like my skills being of a higher level. But yeah, I guess the big takeaways are, they make binders. I think this is, I wish I had the name of it. Done. This is a Done. This paper was, I think, 9x12. Yeah, it's 9x12 presentation. This thing wasn't that expensive. Oh, I will say, this is a really good binder if you ever do want to work on 9x12 paper, because the slit to slide in paper is actually on the side, so you could have this upside down or either way, which I find it really cool to do that, and you never have to worry about displaying it. Like, I always thought when I do these sheets that I would reference them in the future. So it's like, if I have a sheet and I accidentally draw on the other side and I have to like flip it over, the paper won't fall out, because the sleeves, like where you insert the paper, is right here. And this was like, I would say this, it's Done, D-U-N-N. This was like an example of incredible design. I mean, I have to say, and any time in my life that I ever have seen any other type of binder like this, it was like they would either put the insert sleeve on the top or the bottom, so it can never be the other way, or all the papers would fall out. But yeah, I mean, this is really cool. I'm probably gonna get a couple more, because I do like to save my stuff. I mean, I think that is important. I think I will debate with anyone who's going to say in the comments I should have saved stuff earlier, but I have to say, like, for years, and even to this day, there's still a lot of stuff that I just do for sheer amount of practice. I think there's a lot to be said about actually doing practice and kind of like really trying to get to a better level. I think working in like maybe kind of like a looser, simplified type of style can be good, but like I have so much to learn and so much to expand upon. But I will save these. Like, I'm not going to throw this away. I mean, I think if I do more iterations, I'll probably like put them on top. Maybe like I'll insert more, you know, so like I can keep each one into the same sleeve. I'm not sure how much paper I could fit into one of these sleeves, but I think it's worth a shot. But yeah, it's really, really cool. I guess the only other thing I'll say is that, like, they do make other sizes, but always be wary if your bookshelf could fit it. And also, yeah, be wary of the storage, like whether you're keeping out of the sunlight, and also the storage, like if you could store it on a bookshelf or not. Like this, you could definitely store on a bookshelf. But yeah, I think something more like, this is like, it was the only archive container. I think it's like a comic book container, but I just like, I don't own any comic books, but like this feels like a great size that I can just throw all of the weird size paper that I don't really have anywhere else to put, and I want to put it in somewhere that's acid free. That's what I put in here. Sometimes I work on like smaller pieces of paper if I like a quick idea and I don't want to use a whole page of 9x12. I will do that. I mean, I will say, like, I may have been a bit wrong here. Not wrong, but just like sometimes I will just completely doodle. I'll just doodle off the top of my head, and I'll kind of just I'll just do like a bunch of weird stuff, and I will save it sometimes, even though maybe I don't like anything on here and I don't find it worthwhile to put in the binder that I have. But yeah, I think it is important to save some of your work. I feel like at some point, like, you can't just keep throwing away everything forever, but maybe you do admit that you need more practice, and you kind of just, you do throw away some stuff, because not everything, like, you don't want to treat everything as precious. I think that's kind of like an important thing, because I feel like if you do that, you may be sacrificing room for improvement. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it. But yeah, I hope this video was a bit insightful into my process. I think I will say this is gonna like be on a complete tangent. I have a small drawing desk. I would not recommend you get something like that. Get something you can put on a desk that you can sit at with a proper posture level. I've seen myself, I think I'm getting a lot of back pain by using this thing instead of sitting at a desk like a normal human being. Even though I kind of like drawing on the floor, I don't know why. Where I live, it's like above a garage, so it gets really cold. So sometimes I kind of like to be on the ground. Like, I like to be on the ground, like, just covered in, I don't know, just wearing stuff. And it's weird. I know it's weird. And I also have like a weird light behind me instead of like a desk lamp. And that's probably why my lighting always struggles, but I will fix that in the future. But yeah, I hope this was a bit insightful into the process. I kind of had the idea to make this, because I keep thinking about back to that person that said I never really share any of the personal stuff that I do. And probably the answer to that I probably already said 4 times in this video is that sometimes my ideas are half-baked. Other times I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with that idea. Other times I don't feel like I'm ready to share that idea because I may want to expand it into a story of some type. It's really hard for me to say because, you know, I'm not a professional yet. I'm not a professional yet. I'm trying to get my skill up. And I think, like, some days, like, I make stuff and I'm like, I really like this. I really like where this is going. And then I'll look at it a couple hours later and I'll think, wow, I really like this. And maybe I'll look at it a couple days later and I'm like, I think I could improve on this. And it's kind of frustrating to say that because, you know, I guess everyone wants to make the perfect thing on the first time, but that's not always the reality of the situation. I mean, heck, I'm just working in pencil. I'm not even working in, like, ink, or like applying shading or like even working in color or anything like that. I'm just trying to work out my basic rendering skills. But, you know, that's just me. I guess to each is their own. Probably different people will have different levels of skill. Some people may improve slower, some people may improve faster, some people may go to art school, other people may not. But yeah, I hope this video was a bit helpful. And I guess I'll say, oh yeah, the paper that I use for archive is like Bristol Series 300. I always use Bristol Series 300 smooth. I like the feeling. It sounds weird, but in my opinion, the feeling of it is good. And the funny thing is, whenever I use this regular printer paper, for some reason, I don't know why, like, I'm off. I could still draw like normally, but I feel like it's so much more scratchy. Probably there is, like, logic behind that, probably because, well, one, Bristol is smooth as heck, and printer paper is meant to just be, you know, stuff printed on. I'm probably not using it for the best purpose, but I'm telling you, the printer paper, this is like 11 by 17 printer paper, and it's cheap, and you get a lot of sheets for it and a lot of surface area. And I do like Bristol, but it's so much work to cut the roll, and I just like using the pre-cut paper instead, even though it's a bit more expensive, because I don't always have time to spend like 40 minutes cutting a couple sheets, and I know that sounds like a lot of time, but like I try to like measure twice and cut once whenever I do that, and even after that, I have like odd pieces of paper. And then I have to flatten it. I can't even use it the same day more often than not. I mean, sometimes it's so rolly that like not even using binder clips helps all that much, and it kind of like still is a bit like that. But yeah, I hope this video was insightful. You know, different artists may use different paper. They may not always use Bristol Series 300 smooth. They may use like, I think they make a 400. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know if it's like smoother or if it's for another technical purpose, which it very well could be. Some people like rougher surfaces if they're just like dealing with like thicker pencils. And when I say thicker pencils, I mean like non-mechanical pencils. Like there is a benefit to doing that for some people, but that's not me. But yeah, this video went on long enough. Thank you for listening. Bye.